All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Iowa 911 Communications Council meeting for Thursday, June 12th, 2025. Thank you for joining us here in the room and virtually. Kara, could you give us a roll call, please?
Chris Jasper.
Jasper's here.
Jeff Miller.
Here.
Steve Sheehy.
Here.
Mike Bryan.
Mike Bryant's here.
Thank you. Eric Goff. Or Tom Berger. I think Tom Berger's on.
Tom Berger's here.
Thank you. Lynn Tassioli. Or Chris Hare.
Chris is here.
Okay, thank you. Josh is excused. Robbie Johannesson.
Here.
Thank you. Rob Denner. Adam Welp. Tom Weevil.
Okay, thank you.
Ethan Kleitch is in place for Adam Welp.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a motion to?
Johansson first.
All right, is that a second?
Chris Hare, second.
All righty. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Against, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, and likewise, got to get a motion to approve the May 8th, 2025 minutes.
Jasper motion.
You, do I have a second?
Berger second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against, same sign. And motion carried. Blake, do we have a report?
Do, and I will get things started by turning it over to Director Benson. Some comments.
Wow, okay. All right, good morning, everybody. Appreciate the sheriff inviting me out here to talk to members of the council and everybody else that's listening in. So I think most everybody by now is probably aware that yesterday the governor did sign the last bills that she had on her table from the legislative session this year. She did sign Senate File 659, but did not do a line item veto as had been requested by multiple members of the public safety community. So that places my department with the responsibility of implementing that very last section of the bill. What I can tell you is this. I've had Blake looking at that constantly, what this could look like in terms of process and timing. So we know quarter to quarter, Blake's got this all plotted out. We know quarter to quarter what our expenses look like, what our revenues look like. What I can tell you is this: we do not go upside down, for lack of a better way of saying it, until the last quarter of this year, which means that in accordance with the law, the first time that the service boards would see a request for payment from us would be in the first quarter of next year, which roughly would be February. I think would be about the timing on that. And so that is right now for what we understand about how the budget is working. My goal with the budget, as it works, it will go quarter by quarter. And at the end of each quarter, my budget with regard to 911 will be zero. It will zero out. There will not be a negative balance. There will not be a positive balance in the budget. It will be zero. I know there has been some concern expressed into the media that, well, the state can just come in and ask us for whatever we want. I take the word reasonable that's in the language to mean I zero out every quarter. So as you guys know, we've got bills to pay on the network side of it as we've assumed more responsibility. Expenses have obviously gone up. And we only have a finite source of money. So I'll be honest with you, with that language that's in there, I'm not particularly enamored with it either. I don't find it to be the most efficient way to conduct business with regard to running a network. However, it is what we have in front of us right now. So I'm charged with implementing it. So Blake has got the dollar figures actually fairly well plotted out in terms of when we go upside down and what the billings would look like. What it ends up being is about of that the pass-through monies that come down to the service boards, it'll end up being about 13 to 15% is what we would have to take back to get our books to balance out, to zero them out. on a quarterly basis. But bear in mind, like I said, we don't go upside down until the last quarter of this year. And subsequently that billing would be in the first quarter of next year. Get that right?
Calendar year.
Calendar year, yep. So that's what we're looking at. So I've given Blake instruction to set up a virtual meeting next week with all of the service boards if they're able to attend. And he'll be able to walk through the costs. And so you guys can see what our cost looks like, what your revenues look like in terms of what we push down out of that 60%, and then what we would be looking at, asking to come back on a quarter by quarter basis. Now, of course, it's an estimate as we sit right now, but the variation is not going to be very large from what we're estimating versus what will actually happen. Typically, the budgeting that Blake does is usually pretty spot on. Now, the one question I do have is, if you think about this from an implementation standpoint, is the concept of the state program is going to push money down to the locals just as we normally do. And then we're going to turn around and ask the locals to say, hey, cut me a check back for X dollars. Okay, this is government, and this might be the most inefficient way to do business. One thing I am considering is that, and I'm kind of interested in feedback, is if the local service boards, and it could be one by one, doesn't have to be all of them. If you're interested in doing this, say yes or not. But it's essentially writing a letter to myself and Blake saying, we would prefer not to write a check. We would prefer that you just withhold the money from the pass-through payment that comes down to us. It'd save us time administratively. It'd save you times administratively. Logistically, it just makes more sense. So I want to, as you guys think about this, as we move forward and as you continue to have conversations with Blake, put that in the back of your head as a possible way to actually make this happen. I want to try, my goal is to get this implemented in the way that is least onerous to all of the parties involved, because we as a 911 community have to figure out how to make this work. Now, so having said all of that up front, what happens next year with the legislature? So that's a really good question. I think there's a couple of things we need to keep in mind here, that if we as a 911 community can't find an amenable solution to the budgeting problems we have in front of us, the thing I fear the most, honestly, is what we've got in front of us will stay in place. And I don't think anybody in this room, anybody online, myself included, is not a particular fan of this. So we've got about 6 months to really buckle down and see if we can't figure something out, come to an amenable solution, whatever that means. That's kind of my one ask. I don't want to live and operate in this environment. I don't like it, but it's what the legislature has asked us to do. So I think from my end of it, that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. Blake, did I forget anything? I don't think so. So that's where I sit. I just want to make sure that everybody recognizes and understands that concept of the state just coming in and willy-nilly taking money. You'll see precisely what our bills are. You'll see precisely what our revenues are. And you'll see precisely where the shortages are, and you'll understand precisely what that means. So, since I think I've run out of things to say, anything else?
No, there was a comment that was dropped in the chat, which I'll get to in a second. The only thing I'll add is shortly after this meeting, sometime later today, I'll get that calendar invite out for next Wednesday for kind of just an implementation with the community on how we propose to do and what the director talked about. The comment was, I think the legislature needs to see the original proposal with the surcharge being raised. That is the solution, was the comment from Clayton County.
I don't agree with that. And of course, everybody, for those of you that don't know me, I used to run the 911 program way back when. There's a few old timers around here that still remember when I ran it. So it is an issue very near and dear to my heart. And I want to see the long-term success of it is vitally important to me. I've only got 18 more months left at the job, and I want to make sure this thing gets put together correctly. One of my goals before I walk out the door.
Any other questions on the legislative piece? Otherwise, I'll move on with the normals. Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, Blake, thanks. And Director Bettinson, thank you for just the comments and the meeting next week on implementation. Quick question, a couple of comments I've seen from our folks and Representative Vondran in particular is, well, the locals can raise that money, but it's superseded by the state level on the surcharge, is it not? That level has to be set by the state.
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
some of the old timers will remember way back when there were two separate surcharges. There was a local surcharge, which was actually set by the service board, voted on by local voters. So we had surcharges at that wireline surcharges from 25 cents up to $1, maybe $1 plus at some point in the past. So, but that provision no longer exists when we equally surcharged everything. We took that capability of the local being able to vote to surcharge whatever level they wanted. That came out of the code.
About 2013, that was.
Okay, that's what I thought, but that people just keep saying things and there's a lot of misinformation happening on this topic out there. So, okay, that's helpful. And then Blake, just make sure you include me on that invite for the implementation call.
Absolutely, will do. Daniel, yes. You have your hand raised.
Yes, I was curious. This is the final iteration of the bill that was passed. Prior versions talked about next generation 911 services being implemented. Does this language that does pass into law get us down that road, or will that need to be a future legislative project as well?
So what I've said during the legislative process is what some of that stuff that we were asking to do in the bill, previous versions, we really already had the authority to do. But anytime ask for money, the question is always what you're going to spend it on. So it was kind of, asking the legislature to give us that clear mandate to those items. I think we still plan to transition things because we have the authority in 34A to do so.
Thank you.
And just for point of reference, very good question, by the way. Some of that next gen stuff, we're actually pushing off time wise, since that's one way on our end of the equation, we break down that expense side of the equation. So we're going to be pushing some of that stuff off. We don't have those costs right now.
Mike Bryan, I see you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Blake. I hope, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm on my phone out of town. John, I resemble that remark of the old timers because I think I've been on the board about 30 years now. I will just state the obvious that for those that listen and for us as a task is, one, we obviously are going to have a new governor. There are going to be, elections. There are going to be fundraisers throughout the summer. If your legislator don't know you when they see you and you have to tell them your name, you're behind the game. So again, stating the obvious, but besides the work we need to do as a group to figure out a solution altogether, we also need to be educating that process, and that though the session just got over, that starts this summer and on through the whole election cycle. And then before the session even starts. And I think that's the foundation of where we need, we that can. I understand that state employees are, limited in what they can do. But again, I will be working with our chair to come up with a white sheet for those that are afraid to talk. Obviously, that's not me. And be educating the legislative body as a whole, and also willing to help come up with some sort of viable solution. Thank you for your time.
Any other questions or comments? All right, then moving off of the legislative topic, just an update from a couple of months ago when we brought this up with Comtech. independently of each other. Both of our 911 data centers in the state are closing or relocating. So we are probably about a month away from finalizing plans to relocate those facilities. Not ready to talk about it quite yet, but I would suspect next month we'll be ready to talk about what that will look like going forward. So again, right now, those data centers are in West Des Moines and Davenport. Those facilities are closing. Buildings aren't going to be data centers anymore, so we have to find new homes for that. A little bit of what is generating the budget crunch that we talked about. On the next topic, GIS grants. This is actually an update from what was sent out at the beginning of the month. There was an administrative oversight with one of the counties that was reported as not meeting the benchmarks for accuracy. That was corrected. So actually all counties met the benchmarks for the month of May. And as a reminder, that gets paid out at the end of the quarter, so another month to go. We are anticipating the same benchmarks for 2026, so no change going forward there. There's going to be 2 slides for the training funds that will be considered later in the agenda. The first to wrap up fiscal year 2025, using the available funds that we have remaining. We ran and got some quotes for to continue to print the 911 activity books for children. You can see the quantities there and the amount. So no additional requests came in for the fiscal year. And you can see if that's approved, it would be about $14,500 to print those. We are out of those books. They've been very popular. The last time we printed them was about 2 years ago. So we're out. This would just restock that book and of course make that available to all the local jurisdictions who might want them. And then getting started on fiscal year 2026, 2 requests in front of you. Dallas County's request for the NENA Center Training Officer course, as well as a couple options to consider for the extension of the online learning management system. That does expire currently the end of June, so we need to re-up that, and there's two pricing options there to consider, and that can go in front of the council to vote on later. Any questions for me before I turn it over to P-tron for an update on shared services? All right, Lynn, go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, Des Moines PD and Polk County went live in June on shared services. We have Dallas coming up, going live at the end of June, and then Fremont County has signed up, and we're getting them scheduled out in October. Next slide. That's what the current map looks like, and we currently have 81 PSAPs live on shared services, with 2 being deployed coming up. Next slide, please. Just a reminder that the online training portal is available to any PSAPs, not just shared services, and we've got some updated stats there. We got 51 PSAPs signed up, and just a note that they're adding updating course videos to include closed captioning for a better learning experience. Just a bit of information there. Next slide. If you're interested in receiving our periodical newsletter, just send an email to me at lynn.warren@zetron.com, and I think that's it, unless there's questions. Thank you.
Right. There's nothing else. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Going on with the training fund request, we have the Children's 911 activity books requesting $14,539.80. Is there anyone who wishes to speak more on that subject? No, there is. To approve.
Like, are this gonna be half English, half Spanish, or is there any kind of a?
Yep. So, it's on my slide. Hold on.
Yeah, I was saying that.
5 English and 3,000.
Yep. So it's 17,500 in English and 3,000 in Spanish.
You have none left of either.
I have a box or 2.
Is it limited, like kind of before you could have so many per piece?
Guess we haven't necessarily talked about the methodology for getting it out where we can, yeah,
I just remembered that before.
we can get it out either first come, first serve or a lot, so many. At least get everyone started, probably do that.
All right. Is anyone interested in making a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Berger was second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Again, same sign. And motion carries. Okay, we have another one from Dallas County, Nina Trainings, I'm sorry, Center Training Officer Training, $9,900. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on that?
Johannesson, Will.
You want me to say something? I'm from Dallas County. I rented the course. Yeah, so recent turnover. We don't have a lot of CTOs in the center. We're continuously hiring new dispatchers. So I think it's kind of a necessity for us. There's not a lot of CTO courses around Iowa. You have to travel pretty far away to get one.
Okay. And who is this? Is this obviously open to others? What are the limits? Any limits?
Correct. It's open to basically the state of Iowa and I believe surrounding states as well.
Okay.
They have 25 seats.
All right. Okay, any questions? Do I have a motion?
Johannesson, motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Hare.
Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
And same sign. And motion carries. Okay, and our next one was options for online learning management extension. July 1 to December 31st for $19,250, and then from July 1st to June 30th, 2026 for $36,500. Any discussion on that? None. I have a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, obviously it's one or the other. So does anyone have any ambition to talk on which option would be best?
Do we have any updated numbers on, I know we went through this a couple months ago, but updated numbers on this is still being used? It's,
Yep. Sorry, it was in Lynn's.
maybe I just missed it.
You're good. It's up on the screen now.
Got it.
I don't know how anybody else feels with the situation. I would feel. Here, maybe somebody else feels that way.
I totally get that. It's a lot to do the entire year. It's just, it's the $2,000 cost savings, but I completely understand that perspective. It would just be a matter of come December, we do this again.
I would agree. Sure. Anybody else have any opinions that share? Okay. Kara, was there a motion in that?
I make a motion to go with the July 1 through December 31st proposal for $19,250.
Okay,
Jasper will second that.
thank you. Any further discussion? Right, hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 And same sign. And motion carries. Okay, on to reports of officers. Do we have any technical advisories? Okay, very good. We get an update on Iowa statewide interoperable communication system. Ms. Nichols.
Thank you. We've had some outreach events recently, so that is available if you need some training in person at your center. We went to Floyd County for some dispatch training, and we've been down to Lucas County. Yesterday, we were in Dubuque to host a RIC 1 in person. So those regional interop committee meetings happen once a month. And if you ever want to have those in person, we can also do that, but those are often and most usually virtual. We had a successful CompT course the first week of June. That was state sponsored with our own Deputy Swickwalser and state CompT instructor Colonel Hedgepeth, and also our ComL instructor Nick Brasinio was there to help out. And 10 students were put through that course. So thanks to those instructors. Upcoming, we have been able to reschedule the ComL class. The registration's not up yet, but that will be held in September in Council Bluffs. So it was previously put on hold. That's back on the calendar. So if you were registered, you'll be hearing from me for that. I think there'll be a couple open seats. We didn't have a full class yet. The IMED grant funds are still paused. That's from February 21st. And that's all I have for now. I think Motorola, I guess one other thing is they are getting ready for their regular patches. You should have had a email calendar invite for those coming up. June 17th, I think, was the first one. So if you usually get those and you haven't seen that, let us know, and the system admins or Motorola will send those out. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
All right, thank you. Okay, could we get an update from U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Mr. Myers?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the time this morning and good morning to the council. I want to talk about a new product that CISA released recently. It is geared towards artificial intelligence and emergency communications centers. Artificial intelligence is one of those things that's gradually being adopted across the country in various communication centers, whether they're PSAPs, secondary centers, dispatch centers, you name it. But it's been used in a variety of ways so far. What we've seen is that AI has been used to assist in navigating potential issues with staffing shortages and other budgetary constraints, and also increased work demands. As the public gets more connected, the demands tend to go up on public safety, and many centers have used AI to help address some of those demands that are popping up as time progresses. There's also been some discussion within that document about incorporating AI-based tools into other operations. However, this does require significant evaluation for operability, interoperability with your neighbors, cybersecurity, and of course, resiliency. Once you build a program up and incorporate technology, you want to make sure that it works within your agency, with your neighbors, and also is secure and resilient in almost any environment. This infographic does a lot of things. It also talks about other items here, and I see Blake may have some questions to add. So Blake, feel free, sir. The floor is yours.
Not really questions, just we've been contacted by a handful of PSAPs regarding AI integration with shared services. So those conversations are happening with Zetron, mostly on the engineering and cyber protection, make sure that the 911 system stays protected, but allows PSAPs to do what they want to do with various companies. So definitely more to come on that. That's very preliminary. Nothing set in stone. Just we're having those conversations.
Thank you, sir. And that's a good point too that Blake made, is that these do require a lot of discussions, and it's really like a baseball swing. If you play baseball, it's different strokes for different folks. The look, feel, and fit of AI in one center may not necessarily be reflective of how it works in other centers. This infographic does kind of talk about how you can do that, though. Triage, translation services, transcribing incoming calls, perhaps looking at identifying inaudible background noises in a particularly noisy environment. Then, of course, the general quality assurance processes, and then, of course, in improving responder awareness. This document is available on our website for download. If you are unable to find it on our website, feel free to get in touch with Blake, Swick Nichols, or myself, and we'll make sure you get a copy. Next slide, we do have some things that are popping up around the region. We have a lot of FIFA preparations ongoing in Kansas City. We're wrapping up a tactical dispatcher course today down there. We are also rescheduling a communications leader course. In July, we do have an incident communications manager course coming up July 21st to 23rd. These courses are not offered all that often. So if you have someone in your center that has ever thought that they may have to be managing some sort of tactical dispatchers or even managing their center in a somewhat tactical dispatching scenario, e.g. loss of CAD, alternate facility, this is a good course. We are expecting to have some leftover seats available for this. That is July 21st to the 23rd, and it is open regionally for attendance. We are having a FIFA-focused communications exercise in late August. Then, of course, we're also working on locking in some dates for a Cape Girardeau COMEX in southeastern Missouri. All signs are pointing to that being August 18th through the 20th. And then, of course, the Red River Commune Boot Camp is scheduled for October. If you do have some instructors that are looking to get teaching credentials taken care of, there may be an opportunity to get that wrapped up with that event along the Texas and Oklahoma border. Get in touch with me if you have any questions on that. Otherwise, that's my report for the month, Mr. Chair. I can go ahead and take any questions.
All right, thank you. All right, back to legislative issues. Any further legislative issues anyone wants to discuss? Yeah, I'm just going to add something here, and I've said it many times before, and I won't disappoint you by not repeating myself. As we go forward with this legislation in the next few months, I really believe that we have to get away from this stagnant method of paying for 911 through a surcharge. We have to come up with some kind of a percentage. It's going to be linked to inflation and otherwise rising costs, because we would not run anything as important as this by this method. We don't pay taxes this way, except for surcharges such as this. And it's archaic. It doesn't work. We end up being in this situation. I'm not the oldest old timer, but I have been around a while. This isn't the first time we've been down this road. And until we change our method, it won't be the last time either. So, and I really think a partner in this could be our phone companies. I know they're not excited about seeing anything change with taxes when it comes to their product. No one would be. But let's face it, we use phones to call 911. It's the way that works. And I would imagine that when 911 fails, a lot of times the phone companies are going to be the ones that take the blame from the customer. That's folks' nature. So throwing that out there, I don't have necessarily the answer, but I do think the method has to change. So just wanted to say that one more time. Anybody else have any legislative issues? Okay, any information sharing by council members?
I have a question for Blake. You mentioned language translation services. I know there's one that's sending out emails in Iowa about losing their contract and wanting people to sign a contract. I don't know if anybody else has got that.
Heard that.
Could you forward it to me? I haven't seen it. I'll look into it.
Okay, anything else?
We couldn't hear the question or response.
Oh, I said that there's a language translation service in Iowa that's sending out emails about losing their contract with the state and wanting local PSAPs to sign a contract. So I asked Blake if he had heard about that, and he said he had not.
Yeah, and the background there is I know that Department of Administrative Services, not us, not Homeland Security, had a master agreement with a language translation service that we had sent out to PSAPs to be able to use and purchase off of. I suspect that's probably the same company, but I don't know. But yeah, go ahead and send it to me and I'll take a look.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we don't have any unfinished business or new business or travel requests. Do we have any business from the floor from folks in this room? Okay, any business from our folks joining virtually? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Harold make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Miller will second.
Thank you. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.